Hello, and welcome to the third episode of Library in a Nutshell. Today, I'm going to discuss about the archives. So, let's get started, shall we? So, what is archives? Archives refers to a building or room contains non-current materials like books, films, slides, and even artifacts. Next is archival holdings, refers to a non-current organizational records of enduring value, like uh, like books, artifacts, and so on and so forth. Next, what are the types of archives? It refers to an archive that contains public records. Those are public archive. Next, it refers to the public records have been in existence. That is open access archive. Refers to the public records by local government units. These are the local government archive. Next, refers to information that is original, that is records. Refers to the activities involve respect of records, those are records management. And lastly, refers to the records containing essential information, those are vital records. So, what are the importance of archives? Local, fiscal, administrative, cultural, and historical. So, there, if archives that is important, well, there is a law for that. So, the Records and Evidence of Transaction Act, which is the Republic Act number 9470. So, what are the archival programs and institutions? Centralized government, in-house, collecting, and combined. What are the nature of archival materials? Records, personal papers, and artificial collections. Next, what is the quality of an archival record? There are four of them: authenticity, reliability, completeness, and fixity. So those are the qualities of an archival record. Next, let's move on to the principles in archive. Provenance, or respect the fonts, refers to respecting the integrity of the entire body of records. Next is the original order, refers to keeping the records in order. So, what are the supporting principles of original order? Create and receive, use and file, transfer and store, dispose, preserve, and destroy. It comprises of four spheres. Those are records continuum. Refers to the ability of documents and objects and their associated context. That is sanctity of evidence. Next, refers to the complex of relationship between materials and historical, legal, and procedural context. Those are organic nature of records. These uh, these three in relation to the principles of archives. I'll start with the records continuum. It was invented by Frank Upward in 1990s, and it comprises of an hour axis. It's like an hourglass shape. So I cannot show you the what I mean, but I'll show you by provided the picture as you read it, and understand it. Next, the sanctity of evidence. It is the ability of documents and objects and their associated context. So it is important for the documents that not just focus on the main topic but also the subtopics as well. That is essential for that, for a record. Next is the organic nature of records. Those are the factors that have to weigh in that an archivist or a librarian should consider. And of course, aside from the three as I mentioned, the respective fonts, of course, They have to respect the integrity of the entire body of records, whether it's a book, film, or slides, and so on. And of course, keeping the original records in a very organized fashion. Those are the original order. Okay. So, what are the basic functions of an archive? Appraisal and acquisition, arrangement and description, reference and access, preservation, and public relations. So, what is appraisal? Appraisal refers to determining which materials will be retained as archives and which will be disposed of. So, what are the reasons of appraisal? Retention period and identify records. And what is the appraisal process? Appraisal process refers to the process that is done before acquiring the materials and during the process of acquired records. So what are the appraisal values? Time, that is temporary and permanent, and utility, those are primary. Under that, that is administrative, legal, and fiscal. And the secondary, those are evidential, historic, research, and symbolic. And then, what is the records retention and disposition? It refers to the determination of the life of a record, or a life cycle of a record. Next is the arrangement and description. It refers to the process of putting archives and records into order. So, arrangement and description, those are essential process that an archivist should be organized and put it back where it should be. Next is DACS, which is describing archives, a content standard. Those that is the standards of for Archivist, which I'm not going to show you, but I'll show you in the provided picture for you to understand. And of course, arrangement, that is important for libraries, but of course as art, and of course archivists as well. It refers to identify a subject or topic. So that is arrangement. Next, what are the standards of an archive? ISAG, which is the general international standard of archival description. Next is RAD, which is the rules for archival description. And of course, finding aids, it is a guide produced by the archivist. Next, what is the reference and access? So I'll mention both of them. Reference archivist, it allows the public to use the archival materials. So what that means is that archival materials, whether if it's a book or a manuscript that is taken from an archives, that is accessible for the library patrons to use, but with some restrictions upon permission, of course. And access, it is the terms and availability of records. Next is the access policy, refers to the procedures, terms, and conditions set by the archivist or archives. Next is preservation, conservation, and archival preservation. Those are the essential things in archives. So I'll mention the preservation. Preservation refers to safeguarding and preserving the archival materials. Next is conservation. It is the repair or stabilization of materials, whether if it's a book or manuscript that needs to be repaired, for the archivist may or may not check if it is worth it or not. And lastly, archival preservation, it requires that planning precede implementation over renewal activities. So what are the public relations? Public relation process, those are research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. And what are the reasons of having an archive? Well, there are benefits, of course. Increase awareness, elevate profile, uh, entice the prospective to the public, expand linkages, and increase support and funding. So that's about it for the third episode of Library in a Nutshell. So I hope you learned something, and I'll see you soon.